The Anthony Edwards as the face of the league discussion is picked up again. I'll make the case. It's not hard to do it. I'll make the case for Ant as the face of the league next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's bonus episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by FanDuel. You can use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Happy Monday bonus episode here on this President's Day in the U.S. Going to be doing this periodically now, adding an extra 10, 15-minute episode in the middle of the day. And, I'm going to go ahead and bite on this topic about Anthony Edwards as the face of the NBA. And I'll say this. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. I'm not super hot takey. If you're a regular listener to the show, I don't do the hot take stuff. But this is a thing that's been out there for a long time, is the face of the league discussion. And while I do think it's pretty ridiculous as a whole, some of the discourse surrounding Ant winning the MVP, and of course this week plus gap of games in the regular season, and of course the whole league being together over All-Star weekend, kind of gives birth to this conversation all over again. And there was an ESPN article that I'll talk about here in a minute that got me thinking on Monday about the face of the NBA conversation. And I certainly have thoughts, and that's why I want to do this bonus episode, because I'm going to bite. And I think that's what these bonus episodes are going to be a lot of the time, is me reacting in pretty real time to some sort of discourse that's Wolves related that I'm going to go ahead and bite on. And it may not be meaty enough of a topic for a full entire show, or to really dig into the numbers as I love to do on this show. I'm going to talk a little bit of numbers today because I think the case is pretty clear, because there's some intangible type stuff. There's the off the court stuff when it comes to Ant, and then there's also the clear on the court development and growth that he's shown. And I think all that builds into this face of the league conversation. So that's what I'm going to do today. A quick hitter. This is a quick episode. Of course, a reminder, you can listen to this show anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can watch on YouTube, and we'll talk about the Everyday Club a little bit later, but you can subscribe to get ad-free episodes of this podcast, and I'll be back tomorrow with a full episode as well, early on Tuesday. So let's go ahead and dive in without any further ado on this topic. And the reason I decided that I wanted to talk this out on the show was there's an article by Vincent Goodwill over at ESPN that posted Monday, I think late Monday morning. And it was 4 storylines from the weekend. And one of the storylines was Anthony Edwards. And I'm not going to obviously read the whole section, but it was about basically Ant had predicted before the game that people weren't necessarily going to try that hard. But then as it turns out, they did. And of course, in his interview post-game, he credited Wemby for getting everybody going and being competitive. But obviously, we knew Anthony Edwards was going to care. Now, the one thing in the back of my mind coming into this weekend, was the skills competition Ant did, I think it was 2 seasons ago, where he shot all of his threes left-handed and his team lost because it was like he was taking it not seriously. But he still wanted to win. He didn't want to shoot left-handed to make a mockery necessarily, even though it looked that way. It's because he wanted to prove that he could do it. And it's that sort of an attitude that actually works in a game like this, because he's not worried about launching. He's not worried about locking down and playing defense and somebody blowing past him, because first of all, he knows he could be the best at any of these individual skills, and he can prove himself as such. And so there's some quotes in here from JB Bickerstaff about the energy that Ant brings and all that stuff. And then the second part of this, I am going to read what Vincent Goodwill wrote. He says, perhaps Edwards doesn't truly want the responsibility of leading the league into the next generation. Perhaps he doesn't want a white-hot spotlight on every facet of his life. But there's something undeniable about the way he shows up, the way he looks into the cameras and appears so comfortable in his own skin, which could be scary for a league office that likes its stars clean-cut and predictable, attributes not always associated with the electric 24-year-old. Edwards' personality almost obscures the work he has put into his game. The Minnesota Timberwolves are the only constant in the NBA's version of the Final Four the past 2 years, with Edwards being the catalyst. He's not yet a finals champion, but he has taken out some of the league's giants in the past 2 postseasons: Nikola Jokic, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. All right, that's the end of the excerpt. I would add, he left out Luka Doncic on that list because he also knocked out Luka Doncic. And, I wouldn't put necessarily Devin Booker in that same category, but he also knocked out Devin Booker along with Kevin Durant. And I guess we can't count Steph Curry because the only game Steph played in, the Warriors actually won in that series. But all that, add Draymond Green if you want to talk about, guys who have been top 15 players in the league. So a couple points that I want to pull out and really dig in on. The unpredictability of Anthony Edwards and the lack of there's two things at play here. One is the obvious, I guess what Vincent is getting at here, kind of beating around the bush on, which is some of the stuff that Ant has said off the court, or will say, like he swore in the interview that he gave and then apologized. Like he's been fined for swearing in post-game interview. I don't think he will in this case, given there's a scale, right? Like what's the word you said and what's the context you said it in? He's been fined before for swearing in post-game interviews. Like there's that piece of it. There's some of the other stuff, like go back a few years and Ant talked about this All-Star Weekend, how he hasn't been in social media in a long time. He obviously had a relatively high profile mistake when he was 20 or 21, I think, where he said some stuff that was obviously hurtful and inappropriate and not okay by any stretch on social media. And then of course there's, a small handful of other things that that have, been around social media about what he does off the court. Certainly nothing legally ambiguous, nothing that's gotten the league coming after him from a personal conduct policy, but things that are, a bit, they're not, I'll use the word that Vincent Goodwill uses in the article, not clean cut, right? Not predictable, or maybe it is predictable in a not great way. Stuff that the NBA doesn't want necessarily associated with the quote unquote face of the league. However, the clean cut and predictability of some of these other guys, and obviously LeBron's had his bumps in the road. And I guess Steph really hasn't. Like LeBron, Steph, there's obviously some stuff pending now with Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers organization. But you go on down the list, and I guess there's 2 points here. One is, by and large, everybody's had something happen except for maybe Steph, where it's like, wait a minute, and would make the league nervous about the whole face of the league conversation with any one individual player. And then the flip side of it is, Ant is a lot more fun than those guys. Like nobody ever, even like young LeBron, there were some things about young LeBron that were fun, but like it's been since what? Like Kobe was obviously, there's similarities but differences between Ant and Kobe. Like Kobe was less fun when the cameras were on than Ant is, by and large. It's just an incredible, like you go back and look through the last decade, 2 decades, Chris Paul wasn't like the most exciting superstar. He also never won a finals. Like, I don't know, like the list of the best players of the last 10, 15 years, that old guard that's now passing the torch, Ant is way more fun than all those guys. And the how electric his game is, obviously I'm not like, he's a very different player than LeBron, and I'm not comparing him to LeBron, but the versatility of his game, we'll get into that here in a minute, but that's obviously very marketable. But the way that he is able to speak into a camera and just be himself and not try and sugarcoat things. Like, remember Karl Anthony Towns when he was drafted, and it was almost too perfect the way he did all the interviews, the way, like he knew exactly what to do and what to say and what not to say. And he said what you wanted to hear. And that was seen as a good thing, but Ant doesn't say what you want to hear. He just says whatever he wants to say. And there's obviously drawbacks to that, but there's an authenticity to it. Now I understand why the league's scared of it, but it's way more fun than Jokic, Doncic. Doncic has some of that to him, but he's also just kind of cranky on the court a lot of the time, right? SGA, like SGA is amazing, and he's a better player than Anthony Edwards as of today. That's certainly true, but he's just not as fun. And I think across the board, that's just true of Anthony Edwards. I want to talk about the on-the-court stuff in the game itself. We'll do that here in just a minute, and that's how we'll close it out. It's kind of putting a bow on in terms of the actual tangibles when it comes to Anthony Edwards. We'll do that here in just a moment. Today's bonus episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future. You'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year. You might be picking a team to win the championship. Maybe just grab the conference title. And if it's in the West, might as well pick both. It adds an extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's bonus episode is also brought to us by our friends at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the 1 minute I'm talking to you about Indeed, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Again, Indeed.com/podcast. Support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And finally, today's bonus episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by TurboTax. Tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver. It gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. You still got about a week and a half to do that. Actually, just under 2 weeks. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, so the face of the league conversation. I like, in addition to the actual tangible on-court numbers, I do want to pull in the All-Star game stuff because that matters too. And those guys tried, like LeBron tried and KD tried, and obviously those guys are on the other side of 30 by a long ways at this point, and are on the way out as faces of the league. But like Wemby, I guess, is the other one, right? But obviously he's not an American, and so for the NBA, the league obviously being a U.S.-based league, that's challenging. I know SGA is not American either. And there's Jokic and there's Doncic and Giannis too, for that matter. So you look at the 4 best players in the league and 5 of the 6, if you include Wemby, and they're not American. And so the face of the league thing, that does matter. Fair or unfair, it matters. And it is natural for people in the U.S. to want to have the face of the league be a guy from the U.S. And it's not like Ant is world's, he's in that top 6. Him and Wemby in some order at 5 and 6. And obviously Tatum, once healthy, should be in that same conversation, in that same like 4 to 7 range, right? But the on-court stuff, the other thing with Ant that I think is so fascinating is that he's very clearly improved every single year. And this is something we'll talk more about toward the end of the regular season for sure. But you go back to his first couple years in the league, obviously volume scorer, like that's what he was. First All-Star team that he makes was year 3 in 2022-23. That was the season that the Timberwolves had taken a half step back. It was the first Rudy year. And it was just 21 years old. And the Wolves ended up losing that first playing game. Game 82 was the Rudy Kyle Anderson fight. Jaden breaks his hand. Nas gets hurt at the end of the season. They end up in the first playing game. They lose to Lakers and they beat OKC, ironically, and end up in the 8th spot, losing 5 to the Nuggets. That season, though, was that was Ant's first All-Star season. The next year is the first Western Conference Finals year, and everyone's like, all right, well, he's got to make a jump, and he does. What does he add? Well, first of all, he becomes more efficient as a scorer. He gets to the rim a little bit more. He gets the free throw line a lot more, starts to get some calls, but he also adds the assists, the playmaking. Career high assist rate, almost 5 percentage points better than his next best assist rate year. averages over 5 assists per game, the only time in his career. That's the big improvement. Last season, it was the three-point shot. Ends up leading the league in makes and attempts and shooting over 40% for most of the year, finishes the year just a shade under 40%. But at volume, just a ridiculous percentage, given how many threes he was shooting and also all the other stuff he does. He wasn't, Malik Beasley finished second, and Malik Beasley's just a catch-and-shoot three-point guy. Like, he's not carrying the offense of last year's Detroit Pistons. Ant is carrying the Timberwolves offense, and he's doing all this while shooting a ridiculous number of threes. This offseason, it was the mid-range shot. It was the post. It was shooting more in the mid-range, the turnaround jumpers, all that stuff. And what has he done? Well, he's done exactly that. He worked on that all offseason, and he came in shooting the ball extremely well from mid-range. He's like 50% from the 10 to 16 foot range. He's 42% from 16 feet to the outside to the arc, which is crazy at the volume he's shooting it at. And he's done that while maintaining and actually improving his three-point percentage. So his 2-point percentage is up 5.5%. His 3-point percentage is up by nearly a full percentage point. His free throw rate is up again this year because he's also getting to the rim more often. The assist rate suffered a little, but that element is still there. And the Wolves don't have a traditional point guard. And so we'll talk actually tomorrow on tomorrow's show. I'm going to talk more about transition and the pace that this Wolves team is playing at. But the point is that Ant's improved in every single area. Or there's been one major area, I should say, every year over the last 4 years that he's improved in. He continues to build, and he's a true two-way star. He's a plus defender. He can lock down the league's best players, and he's improved in every facet every year. And he keeps adding to his game, and all that stuff matters. And it's just going to build upon how he's seen nationally. We'll talk more about this. It's admittedly a little bit of it's a weird topic because what does the face of the league mean? But I think it's important that we understand that Ant is that guy in so many ways. And part of the reason it works is because he doesn't desperately want it, but he's also not saying I don't want it, right? He's just being himself. And that's why it works so well. It's a natural way to go about being the quote unquote face of the league. Fascinating. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to talk about, a lot of different things, but we're going to talk about first half to second half of the season, post All-Star break. What stands out for the Wolves? What do they need to continue to improve on that worked well as the Wolves started to play better overall, more broadly in January and February? And what's it look out for as we move into the second half of the season? A lot coming up here this week on the show. Make sure you subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. You can sign up for the Everydayer Club to get ad-free episodes and also access to the Discord server chat as well over at lockdownwolves.supercast.com. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. We'll catch you tomorrow on Tuesday's episode of Locked On Wolves.